And welcome back to day 2 of the live streaming at the Dice Tower Con Convention 2018. We are excited to have special guest Rob Daviau on the show, and I am so excited because, Rob, I don't know if you realize this, but I think that you may have the record for most visits to our show on Rolling Dice and Taking Names.
That's awesome.
It is either you or Ignacy.
That's great. Well, it's a little bit weighted because sometimes I have to record the show multiple times because of technical issues.
We do count everyone. Yes, yes. Last time Rob and Justin from Restoration Games was on the show, recorded a full episode. Come to find out that it was Justin's audio recordings that was messed up, and these guys gracefully came back on. Yeah. But Rob, we're not here to talk about us. We're here to talk about you at this convention and all the exciting things that you're going through right now with Restoration Games and this awesome Legacy game that you got coming out later this year. I don't even know where to start, so I'll let you pick where to start.
Thanks for having me on. It's my first Dice Tower Con.
Yeah, mine too.
It's nice. I had to.
You dressed nicer for it than I did.
Well, you know, we can't all be gentlemen. The world needs its podcasters too.
Wow. Kind of salty all of a sudden.
Sorry, I thought you were Tony. I was just PTSD. Okay, my bad.
It's all right. You can be as mean to Marty as you want. I won't mind.
No, the tie's it's a long story, but it's a bit of a costume I put on, like when I first went out to start. When I left Hasbro in 2012, I'm like, I don't know, I'll just wear a jacket and tie, and I made a Twitter avatar. And it seemed kind of fun, and now it's become locked in as sort of the uniform, like Tom and his hats.
Yes, and James Hudson always wears like a vest.
Yeah,
from Druid City Games. So.
My son says like the worst thing you're known for is looking nice. So.
That's the worst thing?
I was complaining about it one time. Like, I gotta pack ties for Gen Con. He's like, stop it.
Get over yourself.
Yeah, get over yourself. Can I have $10?
Well, what did you want to talk about first? Did you want to talk about
the thing that's under the table? Wait a minute, that's
no. I'll go in. We can go in chronological order. So I got 2 companies going on. I can do my original designs.
Yes.
And Restoration Games.
That's right.
And both are sort of bearing fruit of the work of the past 2 years. So in terms of what's coming out, I don't have it with me because it's big and it's heavy. But coming out, some games will be at Gen Con, but really at the end of August is Ultimate Werewolf Legacy.
Okay.
I didn't even know that one, did I? I just threw a curveball at you.
We just did a segment on that.
Oh, did you? Yes. So just rewind it and watch it?
We just talked to Luke from Portal.
No. Let's try Matt Ryan from Bezier Games.
That's it.
All right. You guys take over. I'm out. Okay, so we'll catch you up. So if you missed it, you can go back and watch the whole.
Just go back and watch it
because he had the books out here.
Yeah, the book is
that
great.
Gorgeous book.
Wow.
And all the components and everything. So that was the first time I'd seen the final production. Matt had come down to our place in Charlotte and showed us some of this early production stuff, teased the game a little bit. So it's exciting to see something like that take a party game and turn it into a legacy game. Yeah,
it was interesting. Well, there is a story. I mean, it's not a particularly nice story. You're killing people. And so part of the challenge of that game was how to structure it. Mostly it was Ted's game, and I came in as a consultant for how to make it a legacy game. And then towards the end, looked at where it was landing and tried to write some narrative framing around it in addition to the writing that's in there. And it's a little bit more tongue-in-cheek, especially for the content. Well, it's a party game, so that makes sense, or a social game. But we had to try to justify that, like, well, you were a werewolf last game, but now you're the same character, but you're not, and you were dead, but now you're back. And so we had to kind of frame it in a way that I won't spoil that. It doesn't take itself that seriously, is the bottom line. Like, a little bit of a fairy tale, like, where you're like, wait a minute, I thought that this, you're like, we're just going to write around it. So that's fun, and that's the next game that's coming out.
But one thing I didn't get from Ryan was he was telling us about how stickers will come out, you apply them to your family card name, you could change the roles. But is there anything else that changes besides titles or roles that are available? Do some of the rules change like it does in some of your previous legacy games like Pandemic?
The rules don't necessarily change. Well, there's a big book, which you can see on the last segment. The game is broken up into 5 chapters. Each chapter is 3 games, and the idea is you're going to play 3 games in a night. It's like a baseball series, right? That's a teaser. And we are going to, you're going to play that, and then you could take over and be the moderator for the next one. Some of the things you do in a particular chapter of 3 games will affect the next game. Like there might be different roles or powers or stickers. So it's very much like his baseball. Was there a 2-1 split, werewolves over humans, or did they sweep? Or vice versa? There's 4 different outcomes: 2-1, 1-2, 3-0, and 0-3. And what does that mean? And then like how does the narrative get tweaked a little bit based on that?
Okay. I have a question.
Yeah.
Now, in designing the Ultimate Werewolf Legacy game, did it require approaching the legacy elements from a design standpoint differently than, say, an Ameritrash game like Risk Legacy or, Pandemic Legacy? Did you have to go into a totally different mindset in making this social deduction party game into Legacy?
A little bit. What's different is not necessarily whether it's European or American. Is that the difference is what carries over from game to game,
okay,
and how much do you reward individual players versus not. So, in the case of Ultimate Werewolf and the one that's right at my feet, which I'll bring out,
that hopefully we'll talk about
Betrayal Legacy, which we can talk about next. There is this dynamic shifting teams. You don't know if you're going to be a human or a werewolf, or in this case, a hero or a traitor.
Right.
So if you win as a traitor in this game, we didn't want to reward, I'm going to reward so traitors are more powerful, because you might never be the traitor again.
Okay, makes sense.
And it's the same thing, thank you, with Ultimate Werewolf, as I was a werewolf, but if I reward the werewolves and I'm never a werewolf again, I've helped the other team. So that's the big change we had to look at, which is what changes, and the end game stuff is what changed the most. In the case of Betrayal Legacy, we finally realized, well, you're in a horror novel. You don't get to change anything. The game happens to you for the first 2/3 of the campaign.
Okay.
Because if you think about a horror movie, you're like, what's going on? I don't know what's going on. What's going on is very bad. How do we stop what's going on? And then somewhere around the 3rd act, you're like, I have a plan. Right? So if you carry that through, it means the first 8 or 9 games you play of this, you don't have much active control. It's not like at the end of the game, you're like, I'm going to choose to make the parlor.
Yeah, I'm going to take this sticker because it's going to help the strategies we've been doing.
It's going to help the strategy. It's like, no, you made some decisions in sort of a blind panic to survive that has effects, but they're more like, I did this thing and I killed this thing, and then
so the consequences
are there. Like the example I use, because it's not in the game and I'm sad, is I murdered a clown who was coming after me, and now there's a clown ghost in the basement. So there's an event card that you put in, which is Ghost of a Clown, or maybe Tears of a Clown, we could call it.
There's going to be a song about it.
Yeah, and so you're like, I did it because he was going to kill me, but now there's a ghost in the basement. So that is a legacy effect, but you didn't consciously go, what would be fun to haunt the basement, right? It's not a calculated choice. It's more of, get the clown, I'm going to die, right?
We'll worry about it later.
Right, there's a lot of worry about it later. So both Ultimate Werewolf and Betrayal, they have some similarities. They're both sort of told of chapters and families and generations and things like that. And they also are similar in that you make decisions in the moment to survive or to win that will have repercussions. But it's not like at the end of Pandemic where you get like a little menu of things that you want to buy as tools, because that's a cooperative game and it's a little different.
Cool. Yeah, I've had a lot of kind of just hypothetical discussions with my game group about Betrayal Legacy. How are they going to make this work? And that twist of, just like you're in a horror movie and it's happening at you and you have the consequences of your actions, that is a nice little twist on that whole approach to the Legacy system.
So, thank you. I'm very happy with this. I got a nice little run going in the next 6 months of a bunch of stuff that's coming out that I'm excited. So there's Death May Die that I'm doing with Eric Lang for CMON. He's coming on soon, so I won't do a deep dive, right?
In fact, that's the Cthulhu game, right?
That's the Cthulhu game.
And he's got the early prototype,
He's got the early prototype.
He's supposed to bring it on the segment at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. He said he was going to bring that on and show us.
He had it under his arm when I was on a panel with him half an hour ago.
There you go. So come back, make sure you're here at 4 p.m. Don't leave now. We're talking to Rob. But at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, come back and we'll look at that game.
Yeah.
So that goes on Kickstarter Tuesday.
Yes.
Whatever that is.
Like right after the convention's over.
Right after the convention's over. It was supposed to be like this week, but Eric asked him, please, I don't want to be on a plane. I want to be home when the Kickstarter starts. He's always in the air when it starts. He's like on a Wi-Fi, refresh, how is this going?
He wants to be at home with this Alka-Seltzer in one hand and a drink in the other.
Which one do I drink? Celebrate or not? So Death May Die is a cooperative, episodic Cthulhu game where you play an investigator who's seen a few things. A lot of times in the Cthulhu mythos, there's a lot of good games, which is, I'm an everyman who's walked into this mysterious situation.
Yeah, most of them.
Right, and you don't know what's going on, and eventually you're like, that's very bad, and you go insane.
Yes. Darn it.
Spoiler alert.
But yeah, like, and it works and it's fun. But we're like, what if there's the people who went insane and then a month later, like, I'm better now. And then they run into it again, and eventually they learn, they're like, yep, another Tuesday, another like bunch of cultists up in the woods trying to summon their elder god.
Right. Not this again.
Right, so it's the action-adventure Cthulhu, right? Like, you know the bad guy, you know what's going on. Like, these people are trying to summon Cthulhu at this cocktail party. We have to mess it up. And the idea is that you mess up the ritual just enough that when the elder god is summoned, he's mortal, or it's mortal. Probably don't have a gender. The elder god is mortal, that you can shoot them in the face. You can decide whether you kill them forever or you just drove them back to their plane.
Does it make him haunt the basement along with the clown? If you
No,
do that?
no, they're different worlds.
Okay, go.
They're different worlds.
You're mixing your universe.
Yeah, that one's not a legacy game.
Okay.
It's episodic in the sense that there are 6 different episodes which give you the setting and what the ritual is and how you can disrupt it.
Okay.
And like half the cards and monsters. And then you have the god that's being summoned, and that gives you the other half of cards and monsters and sort of what you have to do once the god's there to kill them. So you put those two together, you're like, what if we summon Cthulhu in the sewers? No, let's do Hastur at the cocktail party.
Yeah.
And let's see how that works. And then you take this box, and Eric will show it, and that box, and you put them together, and you're like, let's start. And you get 10 different characters, and then you get an insanity. What do you go? You're going to light stuff on fire.
Yeah.
Oh, you're going to go catatonic and lie down on the floor every couple turns. And what am I going to do? I have PTSD, like the last bad card that you draw from the deck is going to, on my turn, sometimes happen again and again.
That's cool.
And you're like, all right, let's go. And then you just start, literally like the first 2 actions, I wish we had named this, it's like move and attack. It should have been run and gun, right? It should have been.
Oh, that's,
It
yeah.
should have been, do you want to run? Do you want a gun? Do you want to, like, it's basically 4 things, like move, attack, rest, or trade items. And then each episode is 2 bonus actions that you need to do, like put out fires.
Some other little side quest that's going on that you got to take care of.
Or how you disrupt the ritual.
Yeah.
That's something that's like, here's how you disrupt the ritual, and here's an action that you can use to do it.
But that sounds like the action mechanics sounds to me a little bit like Zombie Side, but it's.
I'd say it's like a second cousin of that. I
second
mean,
cousin?
there's tiles that well, it's not square tiles like theirs. It's more like different shaped tiles and people on the map and cooperative and a discovery deck. Like, it's more like Zombicide than, say, Pandemic,
Right.
even though it's cooperative. But so Zombicide. Yeah, I don't know. It's a lot of fun, and there's like, little emergent area. You might play a scenario the 3rd time and be like, I've never seen this card, and like we tried to put where you draw this card, which is a gun. That's exciting. Oh, here's a person who wants to help you, and then you're like, oh, here's a person who wants to help me, and here's her ex-husband, and now they're both. You can't have both of them on your team, so you have to pick. Like, I'm not working with him, and you're like, okay. So like we tried to put these little narrative moments. Like if you show up at a cocktail party, you basically, like, there were people there already having a party when the bad guys showed up. And so what were they up to before you showed up? And so it's just a chance to put these little moments in so it's not purely...
It almost sounds like some people see them as Easter eggs almost.
Yeah, they're like Easter eggs. Speaking of Easter eggs,
yes.
if you are familiar, I want to talk about this because I'm keeping an eye on the clock. This comes out in November.
Yes.
I think. Halloween to November, first half of November, somewhere in there. And if you played Betrayal at House on the Hill, this is the legacy version of that. It's 13 chapters because that's a spooky number.
You like this whole legacy thing, don't you?
I made a joke which I really like. It's like I'm like the pit bull of board games. If someone has an established brand and I come in and start shouting for like 5 minutes and then go away again.
I can't wait for Legacy the Mind.
Yeah. Like, hey, you got something nice? Let me just grab the mic and start shouting. Like, all right, I'm out of here. On to the next person. I'm winding down on them.
Okay.
It's nice to be known for something. I'd like to leave the party before the lights have been turned on and they're sweeping around me. Also, I mean, I'm still going to be doing narrative. I'm going to still be doing games, but and I still will take a little while for them to all go away, and I won't say no to forever, but I'd like to try some different things. But
this guy.
I did some design and development work on the original Betrayal game.
Yeah, okay.
Back at Hasbro, so it was like visiting an old friend, and also a chance to me to look at some of the decisions I had made as a new designer, going, oh, I'd like to change that.
Oh, neat. So be able to look at your old work and go, wow.
And in 15 years, I'll do one more and retire. I hope, right? Because I'll be retirement age. This starts in 1666.
Okay.
In a small little homestead somewhere in the New World.
Okay.
In my mind, it's New England, because that's where I live, and that seems spooky. but you could have the hills of
England
North
is
Carolina.
spooky.
Yeah, you could have whatever, the Ozarks, you want the
Ozark sounds good.
Yeah. And you play a member of a family, and then every game you play another member of that family. So if you lived, you could actually be yourself a little older, but you won't live. So you're like,
okay.
oh, my uncle went into this house, well, and he never came home, so what's going on, right? And you play that, and so your family gets item cards that they can heirloom. You can be like, that's my grandmother's crossbow.
That's cool.
And when you heirloom something, you get to name it.
Okay.
And then when you name it, it also has a little, you put a sticker on the bottom, so like if this is your family's heirloom, add 2 dice to the attack instead of 1. So it's like, this is the vampire hunting knife that's been in our family for many, many
that's
years.
neat.
That's awesome.
And then there's a legacy deck. There's actually 2 of them that guide you through a story. But there's the haunts, like the regular Betrayal game. And in some chapters, you have a very limited number because we have to tell you something about the main plot. But most of the time, there's branching.
Yeah.
And I think I looked, if you just play through the game, there are 45,000 different paths, just the haunts. So
Just for the haunts.
Just there'll be 45,000 different combinations of haunts that take you from chapter 1 to chapter 13.
Did you count them?
Just yeah. I did 1, 2.
I'm just curious.
Or I use Google. And then there's changes that will take place because it's a legacy game, and there's also spoilers because there's a legacy game. So
Right.
one example that I gave before, which is true, is as you do certain things, either out of desperation or to win, there's a separate deck of cards called a Purgatory Deck, and it'll say like, oh, go get Purgatory card 234 and put it in your event deck. And you might not even look at what it was or something, and then later on you draw it and you're like, oh, Clown Ghost, remember? 2 days ago, I guess old Bozo or whoever is back, and now he's attacking me, thanks a lot. And very rarely it might be like, take this card out and put your family crest on it, and if it's like, if your crest is at they attack you with Might 8 instead, like, you killed me, right?
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, so that's mostly what happens, and there's this emergent story, and because we go from 1666 to early 20th century, 21st century, basically up to modern time, every chapter looks at a different genre of horror. So you end up like at the beginning with like werewolves and witches, and then you move to like Frankenstein, to Dracula, to...
That is so neat, kind of fitting the horror narrative of that time period.
And then each chapter will
That's
tell you to
brilliant.
put more tiles into play. So you'll start at the beginning and you've got like a hearth, and there's an outdoor region. So there's a pond and a hearth and a common room. And then later on you'll like, oh, well, someone built a dining room in the past, 25 years, and the house gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and the rooms get more modern as you go. And oh, it's a 19th century. Oh, look, a ballroom. Yes, this makes perfect sense. It's a giant manor now.
Hey, it's going to be so cool to see that narrative device unfold as you're playing the game.
Yeah, so I'm really fired up about how this game, if you played Betrayal and you played a number of times, you will find more Easter eggs per minute of play in this than any game I've done. You're like, oh, that's from that card. Oh, that's from this haunt in the original. Oh, that's a reference to this character. That's it's just, plus the genres, like, not saying there is an Edgar Allan Poe haunt in here, but if there is, we may have written it using large snippets of Edgar Allan Poe's literature. Just actually, the haunt itself is written using flavor text from Edgar Allan Poe stories.
And how many, I see on the side of the box, there's like 75-minute play times. How many scenarios are...
The campaign is technically 14 games. It's
Okay.
a prologue, which has weight to it. It actually causes effects, and then 13 chapters.
Okay.
And we did that because 14 isn't spooky. So we set up 14
yeah.
and 13 is spookier. When you're done, though, you will have played 14 haunts out of 50. And then you have an infinitely replayable, customized Betrayal game. So you're like, oh, I'd like to play Betrayal. You can take the base game, you can take an expansion, or you could take this one, and you've only seen a third of the content, but it's got the event cards and the heirlooms and the rooms that have been adjusted based on what you did. Oh, what's in this room? Oh, that's where I, was attacked by a vampire, and that's why that sticker's on there. Like, who? I don't know. It was like my great-great-great-great-grandfather.
That sounds amazing. I see Avalon Hill's on the box, but they're with Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah,
now,
they're
right?
a brand for Wizards of the Coast. It's basically their board game brand.
Okay.
So they have their Magic and D&D, and if they do a board game,
They
put
put
down
Avalon
Avalon Hill as a brand on
And
there.
people are probably saying, please open this box. The
It
box
is
is empty.
It is
So
empty.
there's nothing
I
to
did not want to
show.
be physically tackled at the show.
So yeah, we're not hiding anything, and there's just nothing in the
Right.
box. Is that the final cover?
This is the final cover. So you've got a wolf-like, whoops, wrong side. You got a wolf-like creature made of some sort of something that's natural, and you got a girl standing by a pool, but she has two reflections. down
If you
here.
want to show the components on the back.
So here's the components on the back. It's basically what you would expect. There's an outside region, like I said, and it kind of shows you, it's hard to do this backwards. Somewhere on here, it shows you down here, right here, like that's a card that's getting heirloomed. It's a book of scripture, and you can name it, and you can see some of the starting tiles and things like that.
Nice. Well, that is, you said that's around Halloween, November, that's going to be?
Yeah, November sometime.
Sounds great.
These would be Halloween. These would be October.
Yeah.
I maybe took a little while, so. I think we all would have liked that.
Some of your other games take a little while too.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that sounds fantastic. So, and with the time that we have left, if you do not have to scoot away yet, we wanted to actually play a little game using your other areas of expertise.
Here's the thing, anytime Rob comes on the show, we always diverge into a topic on food. This man knows a lot about food. In fact, it was he that taught my host and I how to reverse sear.
Or reverse sear a steak.
Reverse sear a steak. You've ever heard of that, Chaz? Reverse searing a steak.
I've heard of searing a steak, and I did hear the episode, I think, where you're talking about the steaks and stuff, but I can't remember if it was no. I'm just going to say no.
There's a technique called reverse searing a steak. It was just, this man knows a lot about that, and it's also one of the few people we get to talk sports with because the man loves this baseball. And it's like every time we come on, like talk baseball and food. So what we're going to do with you, Rob, is a lot of baseball parks around the nation are known for their odd foods. They have concession stands with these unique items that are very unique to a specific ballpark, probably for a specific reason because of the region of the area of the country that it's in. So we're going to tell you a food item and see if you can guess which Major League ball team this food is associated with. And Chaz, I think we're doing this potentially for a prize, right?
That is right. So we have 10
in advance.
Let's just establish that. Hey, our theme of the whole week is setting expectations.
Setting expectations. I work in an iterative prototyping industry, so I only get a few right, and then next time with the same questions, I hope to do better.
There we go. So we have 10 questions, and if you get the majority of these 10 questions correct, what we're going to do is we're going to you are playing for a random viewer, and if you get the majority of them correct, we will draw a random viewer name who has used this hashtag on Twitter to send us a question or comment about the show or anything else, and they will win a $25 Cool Stuff Inc. gift certificate.
All right,
we'll be drawing
I will
that.
try.
Okay, we'll draw that after we're done with the programming for the day within the next 24 hours. Now, again, since these are about baseball, Marty wrote all these questions.
No, remember, Chaz, the answer is first. Don't read the first line.
Almost.
Okay.
All right. So, number one, there is a pit beef on a Kaiser roll delicacy called Boog's barbecue sandwich.
What?
Yeah, I don't know either.
Pit beef,
the pit beef on a Kaiser roll called Boog's B-O-O-G''S Boog's BBQ sandwich. Can you tell me where or the team that is associated with?
There's only two Major League teams I can think of that are also cities that do barbecue, which would be St. Louis and Kansas City. I'm going to guess Kansas City. I'm going to guess.
Think about the name, Boog.
And also, if you're playing along at home, feel free to send in your answer.
There's probably a player that I cannot think of right now. I'm a bit regional in my baseball. I'm sure there is some baseball player now. Someone's yelling at me right now because I don't know some.
Because I thought the first would be a giveaway because of the name Boog.
No, I'm a little regional with my baseball.
Boog Powell?
No. Who is it?
It is from the Baltimore Orioles.
Oh, they don't do barbecue in Baltimore.
I just thought the name, though.
I know Baltimore Orioles right now are 32 games out of first place.
I'm just telling you. I know they are. He's a big Red Sox fan, so he's keeping up with that division.
I'm sorry. Okay, that's fine. Now I'm just going to go 6 out of 9.
Here we go. You got this next one.
You mentioned that you could only think of 2 teams associated with barbecue. I can only think of 2 Major League teams. So,
well, St. Louis and Kansas City are the only teams I can think of that have Major League teams and also a barbecue tradition.
All right, here we go. We'll do better at the next one.
Okay.
Ready? Here we go.
I don't know.
Number 2. This is the Churro Dog 2.0. It's a churro rolled in Oreo crumbs, served in a donut with vanilla froyo, strawberry, and chocolate sauce and whipped cream.
It's disgusting. I'm a type 1 diabetic.
But
I got to take insulin from the question. A churro is going to be either, it's going to be Spanish culture, near Mexico. The closest team to Mexico is San Diego, but
And there's another one.
Go a
You're
little
in
east.
the right area.
A little east.
Yeah, a little
I'm
east.
so the Phoenix.
National League.
Phoenix. Cardinal. Phoenix. Arizona Cardinals. What? Oh, sorry, I went football, didn't I? Diamondbacks.
There you go.
Diamondbacks.
Diamondbacks. Ding, 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 ding.
Hey,
We got one.
Excellent.
You are so leading the witness. Objection, Your Honor.
We're trying to
leading.
help the fans win.
It's going to be a $20 gift certificate at this point.
$8.95.
Yeah.
This next question is worth 57 points.
Yeah. Let's go.
All right. So the next one, you gave this one to me, I see, Marty. You can find a heaping serving of deep-fried bull testicles called Rocky Mountain oysters at this MLB park.
That's at Coors Field, Colorado Rockies, I would hope.
I would hope so, too.
Have you ever tried that?
I haven't.
I have you?
I have not.
I have.
Yeah.
Well, it's one of those things. It's a mental thing, right? But then I'm very much a texture type thing.
It's a texture.
The texture did not go well with me
That is
at
a
all.
glandular organ. So
Yes.
it's like sweetbreads or something. Look, kudos for finding a way to eat every part of an animal. Something died. There's a reason sausage exists in every culture. That one might be a little tough, but I think it's a mental thing.
But it's the reason I don't like oysters. I don't like the texture of oysters.
Oh, yeah, I can sound with that. All right, over to you.
So this one, I'm not going to tell you the name because it would give away, because the name is in the part. Here we go. Beef frank with relish, spicy brown mustard, onion on a New England-style bun.
Is it the Boston Red Sox?
It is!
First of all, New England style buns are by far the best buns.
I have never had one, but it's called the Fenway, you ought to know, Fenway Dog, Fenway Park Dogs.
Fenway Franks.
Fenway Frank,
And
that's
New England
it.
buns are cut so that there's raw bread on the outside rather than a crust, so you can fry them on both sides like a grilled cheese and get like that toasted bun that you get a lobster roll in.
Oh!
As opposed to hot dog rolls, which are cooked separately so they have a crust on the side. You can't toast them.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's neat.
I like the sound of that.
All right, number 5. You are 3 out of 4 so far.
Probably 2, but I'll just...
All right, so number 5 is a smoked brisket with barbecue sauce called Sweet Baby Ray's Burnt Ends.
It's St. Louis or Kansas City. I'm trying to think of who does burnt ends now.
Sometimes your first instinct isn't the one to go with. Sometimes it's your second instinct.
Well, Kansas City was the first one I said last time, but I said St. Louis first this time, so I don't even know what your clue means.
Sometimes your
St. Louis.
fourth instinct is the one to go with.
I'm going to go with burnt ends is Kansas City.
Yay!
Yeah, nice try.
Fourth instinct for the win.
Have you ever had
St. Louis is ribs.
Have you ever had burnt ends?
Yeah.
Have you ever had burnt ends?
I don't even know
Chaz?
what it is.
So burnt ends is like the outside sort of crusty part of the pig, and it's somewhat fatty, but it's where all the flavor is. And
It's
when
basically
you get,
super crispy. It's like,
yes.
Oh, okay.
you know, it's like a sear. It's a crunchy
My
outside
mouth
of the
is
meat.
watering
Yeah.
just hearing about
so
it.
It's like in North Carolina. North Carolina's known for barbecue, and when you go some places, they offer you regular barbecue pork, or you can get the burnt ends, which is the more crispy part. But that's where all the flavoring is too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good.
We can get into the Maillard reaction and how it creates proteins, but
See,
we'll leave
see,
that.
he needs to be on the Food Channel. What's the guy's name on Food Channel that does all the science? Oh, Alton Brown.
Alton Brown,
This guy ain't got nothing on Alton. Alton Brown's got nothing on him. All right, so here we go.
Number
it is
6.
My turn. Number 6. Thank you. Just Johnsonville bratwurst.
Bratwurst.
Sorry.
Bratwurst is going to be Milwaukee.
Oh my goodness. All right. You are 5 for 6.
You need German immigrants. So it's either going to be Pittsburgh, around to Chicago, or up to Milwaukee, but a bratwurst is Milwaukee.
I told you. This
wow.
is the perfect thing for him.
I know. we were doing our research last night, and we were going through this, and I was reading him ones that were potentials, and Marty was getting like 50%. I'm like, I can't even tell how you're getting 50% of these just off the name of the food. So wow. All right. So we are at the tipping point. You only need one more out of all the rest to get.
No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure.
Actually, it's not much pressure.
No.
Just pick a name. I'll buy them the gift certificate. And apologies.
All right. So number 7 is French fries, cheese curds, sausage, and gravy.
No, I want this.
Called a sausage poutine.
well, if we're going to be authentic, we're going to be the Toronto Blue Jays.
Oh my goodness! Yes!
It's a Canadian, poutine is Canadian. It's not super authentic because poutine is only from Quebecois, so I wanted to say the Montreal Canadiens because Toronto is part of Ottawa and they don't do poutine as much. But
Well, you nailed it.
It is so funny how Chaz is just blown away by some of this stuff, and it's like poutines. There's only one Canadian team.
Yeah. Wow. All right.
Oh.
This must be what my wife feels like when it's like I'm going to the game shelf. Today I feel kind of like a Feld, but I don't really want a point salad. I want a little bit more of it. She's like, whatever, dear.
Yeah.
All right, this one is super easy because I was worried at this
now
point
I'll get it
in case you had not gotten to this point. I was going to give you an easy one.
A softball.
Just the name. It is a softball. Skyline Chili.
Skyline Chili is Cincinnati.
That's right.
There you go.
I had to throw on my favorite team in there. Have you
Cincinnati Reds.
Yes. Have you ever had Skyline Chili? Chaz?
No, not
Do you know what Skyline Chili is?
I've had Skyline
Nope.
Chili.
It is it's actually, they have one in Columbus. If we ever go to Origins, and they take you there sometimes.
okay.
So it is like spaghetti sauce. No, yeah,
It's
it's
served
like
on
chili
spaghetti.
on spaghetti.
But
Oh.
the flavoring is not as much like the peppers that you think of like a chili powder.
okay.
It has a warm spice seasoning, a mixture of cloves and cinnamon and nutmeg.
Oh,
It is very
really?
much still with tomato, still with meat, but it's got a different sort of almost wintry type seasoning on spaghetti. It's
Huh.
different. The name chili is misleading in the sense.
It is.
Okay.
Other
Because
than
you
it's
taste it and you-
stewed meat.
Okay.
Yeah, because you taste it and you're expecting something very kind of a spicy, peppery.
Yeah.
And it's not.
No, it's
and
like
the first time I had it, I was like, I don't see what the big deal is, because I was expecting something totally different.
Totally
You were
different.
sober probably.
The only time you're supposed to have that.
Yeah.
is,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 3 a.m. Oh, we need some Skyline.
I got some spaghetti here.
There's spaghetti and sauce.
The Skyline is as a chain of stores all over Ohio.
Oh, okay.
Especially down in South Ohio.
Oh, we are just nailing it with the edutainment here. Okay. All right, number 9. Even though you've
I've done it.
You got it,
This
but
is
You got it.
just for
You're
funsies.
coasting now.
Yep. Number 9 is the MVT Most Valuable Tamale.
Tamale over here.
Yeah, tamale is Mexican or Tex-Mex, which leads it down to 2 teams.
Yep.
I'm going to go with the Texas Rangers.
You know what I feel like?
Well, is it that or the Houston Astros?
I feel like that scene in Ghostbusters. You know.
A couple of wavy lines.
Yeah. You know,
Well, you know tamales Tex-Mex, right?
yeah, that's true. But just watching you just.
Well, you have to know there's. Well, what I'm trying to do is like, oh, there's 3 teams. Oh, wait, no. Houston has a baseball team, but like I'm trying to like make sure I don't say a hockey team or a basketball team or a football team.
Chaz, when you can design games like this, your mind just works in a different
I've done
way.
Trivial Pursuit for 8 years for a reason.
That's right.
My mind just does.
And he's wearing a tie.
And I'm wearing a
Yeah,
tie.
that's what it is.
That's what it
And
is.
he's wearing a
Plus
tie.
1 tie of knowledge.
All right,
Here
let's
we go.
go
The
for the
final
head.
one, and
Final
this
one.
is just a coup de grace, just to put a little cherry on the top.
Oh, it's not going to be a Yankees one, is it?
No, I purposely left out the Yankees
you.
just for you.
Thank
As a
you.
big Red Sox fan, so I knew not to do that. This is a crab sandwich consisting of fresh crab,
Baltimore, You already said
meat
Baltimore.
stuffed between 2 slices of buttered, authentic. I'm going to stop there because the next thing will give it away. If you knew this,
Well, you already said the Orioles. Crab is from Baltimore, but I'm going to go with the other Chesapeake team, the Washington Nationals.
I will
No?
finish out the clue. Authentic Bay Area sourdough.
Oh, so San Francisco Giants.
Yes.
Bravo.
I knew that was a tough one too because I thought it Washington or Baltimore, but then if you've ever been to San Francisco,
So they have crabs over there. It was
You've ever
probably
been to San Francisco has, I can't remember the pier number such and such.
41,
has,
something like that?
Something like that has incredible seafood. They have,
Yep.
I know that New England's known for clam chowder, but there's something about San Francisco clam chowder that is really good too.
Is San
probably not
Francisco-
a heavy cream base like they do
It
in
is-
New England, or is it?
It is not as heavy probably as
Yeah.
New England, but it's
It's
still
not as cold
really
there.
good.
You know, you need to,
Yeah, that's
you need
true.
to go shovel.
Yes. And Boston clam chowder, is that the one with the red sauce?
No, that's Manhattan.
That's Manhattan. See, okay.
Not a fan of that one. I like the white.
I contributed to the conversation.
Yeah, it turns out that food's my real strong suit.
Yes, that's why we knew we would love to talk. That's one day every time he comes on the show, it's like we got to leave Tony.
I
we
like
got to
that
leave
you
15
actually-
minutes.
yeah.
This is like I elevate. I don't. Right.
We got to spend Tony allocate 15 minutes of this interview to food talk because it's always interesting to hear what Rob has to say.
Oh, awesome. So, okay, so that is 2 gift certificates that we'll be giving away after our broadcast today. That's excellent. And what we're going to do right now is we're going to take a little break, and we're going to be back at 4 p.m. Eastern Time with Eric Lang to talk about, kind of continue the conversation that we started.
Yep, and be looking for this Betrayal Legacy in November.
This is in November.
Be looking for Werewolf Legacy in Gen Con.
Gen Con and then end of August.
And he's also with Restoration Games like Fireball Island's going to be coming out
Also
later.
shipping in November. It's a big month for me.
Yep. And I think there's going to be
Down
some,
Force.
and there's a new expansion down. And I think we're going to have some announcements at Gen Con for Restoration Games.
Cool.
Yep.
So stay tuned, and you can follow Rob at Rob Daviau.
Yeah, ROBDAVIAU.
On Twitter.
Mostly cooking.
That's right. He does post some pictures of some great food on his Twitter account.
All right, so we will be back in about an hour at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Talk to you then.
Thank you.